When and why people show moral courage. That's the main interest of my research. My name is Baumert. When we talk about moral courage, we are interested in whether people intervene whenever they observe somebody else behaving immorally or unfairly. So the focus is on a perpetrator. When we talk about helping, the situation can involve a perpetrator, but it does not have to. So one main strength of our research is that we try to look at real behavior under realistic conditions. And a lot of research so far has relied on hypothetical descriptions of situations and then asked people, how would you behave in such a situation? We were interested in how people react when witnessing a theft. And we had one group of participants that actually became witnesses of a theft while taking part in a study. And we had another group of participants that only read about that situation and indicated whether they think they would do something against the theft. When reacting to a hypothetical description, literally everybody said they would do something against the theft. Whereas when looking at the real behavior of people, it was 1/3 of the participants that did something. So that means that it's likely that people over-report how they would behave in these situations. So one critical aspect that we're interested in is the ambiguity of the situation. So whenever I tell you about the situation, I tell you a theft. So this is a clear interpretation of the situation. We believe that more typically in real life, situations remain quite ambiguous. And then it becomes really interesting how people deal with ambiguity. Right now, we are precisely working on this topic, and we try to test the effects of ambiguity on behavior. So we use financial decision-making as a context. In this setup, there are 3 persons involved. A person A and a person B. And person A receives money and can distribute or allocate this money between him or herself and another person B. And person B doesn't have a say in it. The participant can either subtract money from person A, or he or she can give additional money to person B. And we see this as punishment and compensation. In any case, the participant has to pay whenever he or she wants to change the allocation. So it's costly to punish and it's costly to compensate. In our setup, the participants do not know how much money person A had to begin with. And now, if person A gives little or gives nothing, it is ambiguous whether that's unfair or not. And we compared how people behaved whenever it was clearly unfair or whether it was ambiguous whether it was unfair or not. So one main finding was that people reduced how much they intervened in the allocation of A. They punished less, even when person A did not give anything or gave very little to person B. And they also compensated less. In the classical setup, without ambiguity, persons who are more sensitive to unfairness punished more than persons who are less sensitive to unfairness. But under ambiguity, this difference disappeared. So in effect, persons who were particularly sensitive to unfairness reduced their punishment more than persons who were less sensitive to unfairness. So we think that people who are sensitive to unfairness are afraid that they might commit a mistake when punishing and might be unfair themselves towards person A. One question that we think is urgent is whether the way that people make decisions in such a confined setup in the lab, whether that relates to how people behave in more complex situations in real life. And we believe that it could be that the ambiguity of a violation in real life has the same effect as we observed it in the financial decision-making setup.